over the last few years, we have worked very closely with all kinds of payroll providers all around the world, right? So from small bureaus that are operating in a single country, servicing mostly SMEs, up to large global accounting firms whose clients are Fortune 500 companies. And what we've seen a lot working with all of these clients is that there is a lack of technological maturity in the payroll services industry, right? So you'll have organizations that are very sophisticated, that are very successful, that have large client base, that are very well regarded. But when it comes to technology, they're doing stuff the old-fashioned way. They're doing stuff with email, with spreadsheets. They have a Google Drive folder where they upload and download files that they have to share with their customers, right? Some of them even have physical payroll calendars, taped to the walls in their offices that they use to track the processes and how they're managing all their clients, right? And this is not a criticism. It's not an indictment. This is just the way that this business has worked for a very, very long time. And if you work in payroll and you know that it's very change. Payroll is mission critical. It's there's no tolerance for error. So people in the sector are very reticent to make changes, right? So don't try to fix what isn't broken, right? And that mentality exists both in in-house payroll teams and also we found in a lot of payroll providers, right? The issue with that is that there is a limit to how much you can grow, and there is a limit to what you can accomplish and how efficient you can be if you're doing things by hand, right? And what we're going to talk about today is some of the problems that are associated with that and also some of the solutions to that. So I think now is a good point to get started. Trevor, why don't you take it away from here? You are muted.
Great, thanks a million, Sam, and delighted to be on here today to talk about something I'm passionate about. So, look, Payzaar has been in the market for quite a while, and we've been helping customers organize and manage their global payroll operations. We've been helping global payroll providers do the same thing to offer better services to their customers. And we've been helping in-country payroll providers to sharpen up what they do. So we've learned quite a bit about the market on both customer needs and also the industry side needs. And one of the things that keeps striking us, and we are in the age of the cloud. We are in the age of automation and AI, and technology is changing at rates that we haven't seen before. And is that in many really good payroll service organizations, and for good reasons, they deliver incredible service to their clients. But internally behind the scenes, there's often a very manual, labor-intensive, low-tech means of delivering those services. Often they're orchestrated on the back of an email, potentially buying a commercial off-the-shelf payroll engine, producing payroll where data is being communicated backwards and forwards via spreadsheets and email. And while this is fine, I suppose within a business to get the job done and has worked historically, questions then come into play around, I suppose, information security and the demands of GDPR and the demands of auditable processes by your clients. Questions come into play then about how do I grow and scale my business? What does the competitive landscape look like? How can I move myself away from highly manual processes to let the technology deliver better services so I can focus on delivering a better experience for my customers? And I think one of the areas that people become kind of reluctant for change or reticent to change is because often payroll is seen as a service. If it isn't broken, it doesn't fix it. But I think in many cases it is largely broken. People accept it, and now is the time to fix it. So payroll services, people get paid on time. The payroll community do a super job to do that. Payroll providers are right up there in the mix, and oftentimes they're at the back end of accepting poor technology, from their customers as well in terms of how they communicate data, but all of this is changing. And if you could flip forward, please, Sam. Question is, what are customers now expecting? So on one hand, think about your service offering and how you actually build that in a scalable way. And then what are customers being told by bigger players in the market? What are customers being told by your competitors? And what is the customer's perception of what a modern payroll service, what do they now look like? They expect automation, they expect analytics, they expect information security and compliance, they expect certification in these areas too. And these become table stakes like never before to be able to operate. And what actually happens to a lot of good in-country payroll providers is that if they can't keep up with the changing demands of the customers, the leading competitors in those markets, leading international competitors, are whispering in your biggest client's ears, telling them about the great things that they can do for them, the great technology they have, the great analytics they can give them, etc. Because oftentimes they do have potentially better technology platforms than are available in country. And this then, I suppose, creates this competitive tension. And maybe back to my point, if it's not broken, don't fix as well. Sometimes the time that you need to disrupt yourself is already past, and it's when you potentially look at your most comfortable and look at your best is the time to turn up the tables and to start to build again. Because if you don't do it, one of your competitors will do it to you. So customer expectation is way up. And Sam, maybe if we could move forward. So could a different technology solution help to enable your services, help to drive better growth, right? So can you win new business? Can it take you into segments or parts of your market that you might not necessarily be synonymous with today? Can it help you to retain some of your marquee customers that you've gone the extra mile to land in the first place, to win those accounts, to serve them very well over the years? So with technology, driving retention in the payroll business is key. Driving growth is key. And a big aspect of that is going to be back to address the concerns that new customers in the marketplace want, and that your existing customers will also want as well. So I suppose ask yourself the question: if you take a look at how you serve your customers today, could a technology platform help improve your growth rates, help improve your retention of your existing base? You could flip on. So one of the things that often businesses kind of run into is this linear progression of cost and revenue. As my revenue goes up, my cost to serve goes up in equal measure. And to achieve scalability, really what we need to be doing is to accelerate revenue, because that drives profitability. It allows us to invest more back into the business. If we have the cost growth rate trailing our revenue growth rate, that's a great place to be, right? So how can you grow faster? How can you get into segments, as I said earlier, you're not synonymous with, while keeping your cost growth rate trailing that? And part of the key to this really is finding efficiencies in your organization. And those efficiencies, in many cases, just because you look for efficiencies doesn't mean you sacrifice your service or anything like that. Because maybe when we take a look at some of the areas around your cost and where you're losing money, a more efficient service is maybe a service of fewer hours. Fewer hours in payroll world typically means a more satisfied customer, someone who is also unwilling to change from you because they don't want to risk a degradation in the service to the ultimate customer of payroll, which is the employee. So there's lots of ways in which we can take a look at squeezing costs while driving growth rates. And Sam is going to talk a little bit later about a business that we've had to achieve just that as part of a case study. And I think hopefully, those of you that will see that case study that Sam will talk you through, will be able to identify with some or all of the parts or some of all of the journey that that business is on. So maybe we flip forward, please, Sam. So, what you want to try to drive is a better customer experience, right? While at the same time driving scalability. Part of that then is, can you manage all of your customer interaction, your in-house payroll specialist interaction with your customers? Can you organize and centralize that all in one place, give you visibility of the production process in your business? How many processes do you have today that are highly manual and risky, right? So if you think about the risks that you're enduring, so your risk of potential risk of information security breach, if you don't have central management of that data in a very secure fashion. You've risk of error because every time there's a manual intervention, it generates the opportunity for payroll instructions to be loaded incorrectly into whatever payroll engines you currently use today. Those errors then have a nasty habit of spiraling out of control in front of your clients, because ultimately there might be penalties that are placed on your customer that they may try to reclaim from you because of errors in reporting or declarations, etc. Errors then, of course, if employees are paid incorrectly, those errors arising from those manual processes really have a degradation of your perception of your service from your clients. So manual processes in their own right, we understand how they grow up and how you've put them in place over the years, but they do expose you to risk. And can solutions that give you this collaboration between your customers, yourself, employees, and your payroll specialists, the interplay, if you can get in this intersection between those, this is the opportunity to drive those efficiency gains. And we'll talk to you a little bit about how, in real tangible terms, we can get you there. But one of the things we also need to think about as well here is, key person dependency in your own business too, right? Where you have manual processes, you got to have people out there trying to remember to do these, off the side of the desk type processes that aren't industrialized at scale, etc. To remember to do them to fulfill your service commitments to your clients. And those people leave. And it's not just your customers that have a desire to work in a more modern way. Your employees do as well. Your team, your payroll specialists in your businesses that are delivering really great service to your own clients, they want to use more modern technologies and tools. They want to feel that they're at the leading edge of their profession as well. So, all of these things all add up to areas that you can look at where there's direct benefits to your clients, direct benefits to your bottom line, direct benefits to your staff. Or, if you get into this intersection between these three different dynamics, everyone potentially wins. So let's move forward, please, Sam. So if we take a look at where gains are made, there's an awful lot of manual process specifically around the collection of data from your clients. So how can we help your clients to become more efficient and better around data collection? How much first time right and also data validation can we push back on the client to make sure that actually the client lives up to their responsibilities too? They in most service definitions I've seen, clients have responsibility to get you on time correct data, but we all know late changes. We all know that there's, on the client side as well, there's a lot of manual intervention. But if you had a tool that kind of helped you to squeeze out that level of error even before the data reaches you for processing, that's a big efficiency gain for you, but also for the client as well, because you're putting tools in front of the client that help them to heal their data before they send it. And that just speeds up the whole payroll process. If we then think about if we've better inputs coming from the client, maybe you could be a little bit more flexible in your payroll cutoff dates as well, which again, that could help to differentiate you from competitors in that you can accommodate later sets of instructions from your client because you know they're going to come in better shape. There's less checking at your end before payroll needs to be committed. You need really to think about how can I put together an auditable kind of lay down an auditable process between yourself and your customer for the exchange of data, for approvals, for the management of the overall payroll process so that you can see your KPIs. You can see that you're meeting your KPIs and your customer's transparency on that as well. And it's a big issue that often in cases where you've, heavily reliant on emails and someone leaves your business or someone leaves the client's business and next thing you know, you're trying to piece together email trails to resolve a dispute, etc. Having a centralized tool to help with that speeds up that whole process. Plus, it's also, if you have it, it gives your customers comfort too, because they are audited by their internal and external auditors, especially in the area of payroll, and making that process easy should drive an efficiency gain on their end. Getting visibility in a real-time way across your entire payroll production process, I think, is important too. So it helps you to react and helps you to plan and be able to accommodate just simple things like unplanned absence. Trevor doesn't show up today because, I'm sick, can't turn in for work. How do I reallocate the tasks that Trevor might be doing today manually to another member of the team? How do I know what capacity I have in the team to pick up a set of payrolls that maybe I'm supposed to do today? So having that ability to see what's happening in your payroll production cycle, be able to reallocate work for peaks and troughs, etc. It's really, really important. And again, another big source of efficiency gain. We spoke about error detection, etc. Not going to drain that one, but maybe this last one as well. Oftentimes, your clients are spending maybe time asking you for data refreshes, asking you for reports, etc., that your team members are having to pull out of the local payroll engine. That maybe pushing that to a client does two things. If they can self-serve their own data needs, while at the same time not relying on your teams to produce that data for them. Again, it's another efficiency gain, but also something that maybe ticks the box for the customer in terms of their desires to operate with more efficient and more modern technology tools. So let's flip forward, Sam, and drill a little deeper into some of these items. So if we think about data preparation and collection, can you put nice, easy to use, intuitive tools in front of your clients to get data? Today, you might be taking that in through a set of spreadsheets, highly manual, a lot of work to do that could really be automated. And maybe using a platform like Payzaar, we give the clients tools to understand the changes in their payroll from period to period, to understand data validation and problems, so that they can take the data from their organization, which we often know is a challenge for them too, and straighten it out before it even gets to you, right? So apply some of that logic and take the checking out of your organization. Also take the checking out of your client's organization as well, and let the technology get in there and help your clients, right? It also reduces email traffic, which, I think is one of the largest sources of data breach. We all need to be concerned about our cybersecurity, but the biggest single source in an organization today is just the simple act of sending data to a recipient in an email that they shouldn't get. So removing that moves you to a more task-oriented, a more secure collaboration type environment. If we flip forward, Sam. Document management, client communication. You're going to have emails, different members of your team today, potentially phone calls, etc., instructions being taken in via different communication means. That's all great. It's a very flexible service, very attentive to the client. And by no means am I saying that The important conversations that you need to have with your customers shouldn't happen. What I am saying, however, is both you and your customer benefit from laying down an activity log of the communications in a digital format that's visible to both you and the customer. Very, very handy in situations where people leave either your customer's organization or your organization, so you don't have to go back and try to piece together what was said about a particular payroll during a particular point in time. It also gives transparency because it's always, as a supplier, and we know we're suppliers ourselves, that it's always easier for a customer to say, well, look, it's the provider's fault. But this activity log of communication between both provider users and customer users is transparent, and it lets you piece together what actually happened at a point in time. So again, managing the collaboration, managing communication, making it visible and transparent, just is really, really handy to have from a dispute resolution perspective, but also from an information security perspective. And it also then, as payrolls are sampled by the auditors on both sides, a full audit trail of what happened to payroll is logged, and again is transparent. And you're working to a standardized type process again, which auditors like to see because it reduces risk. If we flip on, please, Sam. So again, the spreadsheet with the list of customer payrolls that need to be processed this month, this week, today, etc., and the activities. Again, it does the job, but it's not particularly great when it comes to things that like reallocation for absence, understanding where your peaks and troughs and your flows are coming. Also, not fantastic from the point of view of understanding the tempo of your business. If you can pull this forward in a more modern mechanism, it helps you to respond to events in your business around peaks, flows, delays, etc. So you understand where you are, so you can get on the front foot and manage clients. There's the other side of it as well. It's managing your clients, because clients will, no doubt, take as long as you will permit them to deliver you what you need out of this payroll process to help them get their employees paid. And again, when you get into those account management conversations, you'll be able to look back over how did the payroll process go? Where did we hit our SLAs? Where did we miss them and why? Because guess what? We have a full audit trail of when did the client send the data? When did they approve payroll? When were compliance obligations filed, etc. And it's transparent. So there's two sides of this as well. It's keeping the client honest and the client's being in a position to keep you honest as well. But managing the flow around your payroll production is really important, not just to hit a single client's set of contractual SLAs with you, but all your clients' set of SLAs with you. So this feeds into the KPIs behind a platform like Payzaar. So we want to keep rolling, please, Sam. Error detection. So one of the key areas, we know something like 60% of payroll person's time is spent in checking and responding to checking data, validating data, and responding to errors. Wouldn't it be great if this was done automatically for you in a platform like Payzaar that basically compares the set of instructions that you see from your clients that were released to you by the client in digital format in a transformed into a set of instructions that your payroll engine can consume. And once you've produced payroll based on those set of payroll instructions from your client, you can push your gross to net information back into Payzaar. So before your client gets to see payroll and gets an approval, an automated approval request, your payroll specialist can see for that client where you had mismatches between their instructions and what appeared on the gross to net file. Today, you might be sampling the payroll, you might be spot checking the payroll, and we all know that people are under pressure. Maybe the level of checking that you'd like to do isn't possible, and that leads to errors in payroll that your client then might find. And often I hear from customers of payroll service providers that say, look, we're supposed to be outsourcing this service to our payroll provider. However, why am I doing all of this checking? I just expect it to be right. Now they may conveniently forget that sometimes they send you late changes beyond payroll cutoffs, etc. That can lead to errors. But really, wouldn't it be great to take that kind of checking work and get that assurance that, okay, we've processed all of those changes that this customer have sent to me, and we can see them on the gross and net file, and the machine is doing the checking. Some people really like this checking type of work. I know I would prefer to have an application bubble up to me problems, so I only need to check the odd thing, not check everything. And this is where automation comes in, and this is where these tools will help you drive more efficiency through your existing team. So as you grow, as a tool, as a more technology-enabled service allows you to grow and compete better, helps you to retain your existing customers, to help your revenue line grow faster than the curve on your cost line. These are the kind of areas that you need to get into, and this is a key area. This checking drives up quality, and it'll also save you downstream costs of error correction, which we all know is very high. So let's click forward. If we can check the data, if we can check the payroll instructions to the gross to net data, the data is already resident in the database. And this means we can drive analytics and reporting. Today, you might be able to generate some reports from your payroll engine, but you're not able to put access, generally speaking, to that payroll engine into the hands of your client, right? You reserve that for your use. However, with a platform like Payzaar, what you can do is you can move to a position where you allow the customer self-serve their needs. So in a sales process, we all know that there's big attraction to being able to feel like I can get access, I can get easy access to my data, I can get touch of the button access to my data, and I don't have to go to anyone else to kind of get it. So I can query it myself, I can visualize it myself. So, and often in these cases, there are services that in many cases, you can't charge a customer. If you did charge a customer, they would find it a nuisance. They would just kind of expect it that you're able to serve their data needs. And it becomes an irritant. It becomes an irritant if you're to charge a customer for this. And at some point, that irritant becomes not just a stone in a shoe, but that irritant becomes a reason why somebody wants to change away from your service. So, as I say, these are ways in which you can go and wow your customers, help win new business, take some cost out of your payroll production process, better serve your customer, and move to a position where you're able to give them those basic needs, those basic data access needs that they want. You want to flip on, Sam? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Sam, and Sam is going to talk about the facts, the figures of how we helped a customer of ours really change the dynamics around revenues and costs in their business. So over to you, Sam.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you for all that, what you covered, Trevor. Yeah, as Trevor said, I'm going to discuss a customer case study. One of our customers, they're called Paycheck Plus, as you can see on screen. They are a payroll bureau. They're based in Ireland. They service the Irish market and the UK market. And we've been working with them, I believe, since 2019. So it's going to be coming up on 5 years now. And we started working with them because they had a very successful business. They had been working, providing payroll services for quite a while. They had hundreds of customers. They had very high ratings by all their customers. They won multiple awards for quality of service. They have a best place to work award. So they have a really good culture, and they delivered really good quality service to their customers. But back in 2019, they came to a situation where they hit a bottleneck, basically. They hit a bottleneck because they realized that they could not continue to grow their business the way they had, working the way they were working at the time. They were doing everything very manually. They were, as we've talked about, doing everything with spreadsheets and email, basically. They actually had physical payroll calendars on the walls of their office. They had a gigantic whiteboard where they had their payroll calendars drawn out and they tracked stuff like that. And they project managed and they managed the production of payroll basically by talking to each other, by exchanging emails, by tracking stuff on their physical calendars, right? And they came to the realization that if they wanted to continue to grow, they would either have to, their costs would go up substantially, or the quality of their service would go down. And obviously neither of those was an acceptable option for them. So what they started to think about is, how can we bring technology into the mix to increase the efficiency of our processes so that we can decouple those two curves, right? Those two lines, those two trend lines that we showed earlier, right? The revenue and our costs, right? And they came to the realization that what they wanted to do is, they weren't looking for a payroll engine. They weren't looking for something to process. They were looking for a layer of technology, of a platform that would allow them to manage their processes better, which is how we came to, how they came to meet us, basically. And what has happened with Paycheck Plus is we started working together. And basically the project for them was to undertake a full digital transformation of their entire service delivery, from doing everything in an analog mode to doing everything digitally, right? That meant that instead of managing their customers one-to-one, what they wanted to do is they wanted to centralize their customer relationship management on our platform. All communication was routed through the platform. All document exchanges are routed through the platform. The payroll workflow and the payroll calendars that they use for each of their customers are all centralized on the platform, right? They implemented us, and there's a lot of positives in the story, but the biggest one is that they've continued to grow very, very significantly since implementation. The quality, their NPS scores and the ratings that they receive from their customers are continue to be very, very high. And let me flip through this here. Okay, there we go. And there's some very interesting kind of data points in here that I think are noteworthy, that are worth pointing out. So when they made the transition from working in the analog mode that they had before to working digitally, to bringing all their customers onto a payroll bureau management platform, the first thing that stands out is they lost 0 customers, right? Usually when you undertake a really big digital transformation project like that, and if you have hundreds of customers, something is going to get lost along the way. That's very typical, right? They lost 0 customers. They onboarded 400 customers onto the platform in a period of months, and none of them left. And they actually made a judgment call, which would be difficult, I think, for a lot of organizations, because typically, you're going to go talk to your customers and they're going to say, no, I'm happy. I like the way we're doing things now. I don't want to change. And they made the call and said, no, the future of our business is to go digital. And this is how it is. This is how the service is going to be from now on. So they went to their customers and said, look, this is a change that we're going to make. It's going to happen. Trust us. We're going to prove to you that it's going to be worth it to you. And it worked out really well for them, right? I think I skipped some slides. There we go. Okay. The other thing is also, since they've implemented us, they have doubled their book of business. So since they started working with us in 2019, they have doubled the number of customers they have. They've doubled their overall book of business. There we go. And proportionally, they are investing 30% less resources than they were when they started working with us, right? Which means that they've acquired a lot of new customers, and their staff costs have not grown in proportion to that. What that means is that the profitability of the business has gone up by a huge amount since we started working together. The other thing that has also improved significantly since we started working with them is a lot of the internal KPIs around processing time and cycle time, right? So if you'll see down here on the left, it says, right, out of a sample of 20 key clients, 90% had processing time savings pre versus post Payzaar. And that is due to what Trevor was talking about just a few minutes ago, all the efficiency gains in these different parts of the process, in collecting and transforming and preparing data to run payroll, and having more fluid and faster and more immediate communication with customers because everything is centralized in one place. In reducing cycle time because there is less back and forth and there is less errors in the data, so they don't have to do as many repeated runs and things like that, right? So all of these things together add up over the course of the month, over the course of the pay cycle. And what they're seeing is that they're shaving hours and hours and hours off of all these kind of very manual, slow manual tasks. And at the end, they're giving customers savings of hours or potentially even days sometimes in how long it takes them to process a payroll, right? And Trevor, would you like to jump in? Is there anything else you'd like to call attention to here?
I think one of the key things, I suppose, is a behavioral piece I would like to call out, which is the team really embraced change. And what they found was a lot of the fears around, oh, I can't change this process with my client because we've been operating like this for a long time, didn't actually materialize because the reality is client wanted to adopt a more technology-driven service because the benefits of that outweighed the I suppose people's natural reticence to change. The leadership in the business, in fairness to them, led from the front in terms of driving the change, just understood that how that business had grown and the business was phenomenally successful and continues to be phenomenally successful, how the business had started off and the world around them, the competitive landscape had changed, and for them to continue to succeed, they needed to change. So it was a really, I suppose, enlightening engagement for us at the time because, as I say, they kind of embraced the change agenda. They replatformed their business. They showed great ambition, and the outcomes have been fantastic. Efficiency outcome, the important things, right? Revenue, efficiency, profitability, and all of that is driven and reflected as well by the customer net promoter scores, which have increased dramatically as well. So I think sometimes the fear of change is unwarranted, and sometimes your customers, while they might not necessarily be directly saying it to you, they may be voting with their feet and going someplace else, but they're expecting you to innovate your service also.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an interesting, that's a very good point. It's a very interesting point. I think that making this type of change is also really important. Obviously it's important because it's going to make your life better and it's going to make your business, the quality of the service you deliver better. There is also a matter, what Trevor said about the customers were already expecting this, or they're already desiring this, so you shouldn't be so reticent to change. I think there's a point around that, which is commodification, right? So payroll services are not very differentiated among themselves, right? Most payroll service providers provide service that is very similar to most other payroll service providers, right? You will see differences between global aggregators, for example, because of the scale of what they're doing and because their service is more mediated by technology. But if you are a payroll bureau, if you are an accounting firm, if you're a smaller business and you don't have that level of technology in your service, what you're providing is going to be very similar to what someone else is going to be providing, right? And your in-house culture and how you deliver that's what differentiates you. But that is not something that is super appreciable or that is super present or that can be seen very easily by the customer, especially if you don't have a working relationship with them already, right? So there is a key piece here that I think is also really important, which is differentiation, right? If you have an offering that is heavily mediated by technology, that incorporates automation, and that incorporates all these different elements to drive up efficiency, and that results in a much better customer experience, that is something that is going to stand out a lot from everyone else in the market, because most companies are not doing things this way. Most companies are still doing things manually, right? So I think that was a key piece for them, where they said, we want to increase efficiency. We want to be able to maintain our very, very high standard of quality while we continue to grow the business. But we want to have an offering that is unique, that is our offering, right? That is like no other offering of the other firms that we're competing with, right? So what they did is they implemented this. They implemented a platform, the payroll bureau management platform, and they branded it themselves, right? So they came up with their own branding, and when they go talk to customers, they pitch the service offering. Their pitching is not just, we're going to process your payroll for you. It is, we're going to give you this highly integrated digital experience where everything is very smooth, very streamlined, and we're leveraging automation at every step of the process to make your life much easier for you. And that is, again, highly differentiated. And that is the kind of offering that is going to help you win accounts more, and also retain them longer once you do win them, right? And I think I'll end with that. And I don't know, Trevor, maybe you have something else to say.
No, I think it's great. I think the metrics speak for themselves. Revenues up, profitability up, net promoter scores up, zero client loss. It's a tremendous endorsement of the great work that the team at Paycheck Plus performed, and it's something I'm really proud that Payzaar was involved in.
Yeah. So now, usually what we do at the end of the sessions is we like to take questions from people. So we didn't receive any questions throughout the presentation, but if you have any questions and you would like to ask them now, please go ahead and do that. You can put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, or you can put them in the chat if you want also. And if we don't have any questions, then we will wrap up here. Okay. Well, it seems like there are no questions. So then what we will do is we will finish the session here. I hope this was useful for you. I hope it was informative. I hope that you learned something from it, or at least that it gave you something to think about. And I would like to thank you all for joining us today. As I said at the beginning, this session is being recorded. Once this is over, we will upload it to our YouTube channel. And again, I would strongly recommend you go to YouTube, put in Payzaar, you'll find us. You'll see we have a lot of really interesting content up there. And yeah, check it out. And we will be running future webinars where we will go more in depth on each of these topics. So keep an eye out for that. You can find them on our social media channels, on our email list also, if you're subscribed to that. So you'll receive notifications of that too. And I think with that, we'll end today. Trevor, thank you for your time and for presenting.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now. Bye.